The Phoenix Suns are cooked. They're cooked, I fear. They lost to the Spurs, who were playing without Victor Wembanyama, and it was a disaster class from them. They got iced by a Jeremy Sohan 3, the only one he hit of 7 on the night. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Jeremy Sohan guy. I like Jeremy Sohan. I think he's going to be good. But also getting iced by a Jeremy Sohan 3 in the Big 2024 is rough. He also had 18 points and 26 points and 18 rebounds on the night. And they also had Devin Vassell go for 26, 7 and 4, and Zach Collins go for 18. And in return, KD and D-Book showed up, but no one else had any production really to speak of. The only other player above 10 points was Royce O'Neal, and the third part of the quote-unquote Big Three, Bradley Beal, only had 9 points. It was a shambolic performance from them. And this was their last real winnable game for kind of the rest of the season. The rest of the season is kind of a hellscape for them. They go against the Nuggets tomorrow night. They go against the Thunder after that. Then the Pelicans, the Cavaliers, the Timberwolves, the Pelicans again, the Clippers 2 times in a row, the Kings, and then the Timberwolves. That is a hard schedule to end the year. And while they'll probably get 1 or 2, it's not unlikely that they have like a 2-8 record by the end of that stretch. And they're only 2.5 games above the Lakers for the 9 seed. They're 5 games above the Warriors for the 10 seed, so it's very unlikely that they completely fall out of the play-in. But if they drop to the 9 seed, then that means that they have to win 2 straight games to get into the playoffs. And there's a real chance that they miss the playoffs. And for a team that went in as much as they did this offseason, that is a rough situation to be in. You trade all these picks and Mikal Bridges for KD. Then you go ahead and you trade all these picks for Bradley Beal as well. You really hope and wish that you are a contender. And right now they're a contender for a play-in spot. They only have 2 picks that they can trade over the next however many years the CBA says that you can trade picks for. They do not have a single pick of their own until like 2032. The only 2 picks they have are a 2024 second round pick via San Antonio that's protected 31-49, so they will not get that pick. And then a 2028 Boston second round pick that is protected 31-45. Those are the only 2 picks that they have for the rest of the decade. KD is 35, Bradley Beal is 30, Devin Booker 27. He's going to be good probably for the rest of the decade unless injuries happen. Yusuf Nurkic is 29. Royce O'Neal is 30 and his contract expires at the end of the season. Grayson Allen is 28 and his contract expires at the end of the season. Eric Gordon is 35. You know, like a lot of their supporting cast and 2 of their big 3 are in their 30s or approaching their 30s. They are so cooked, man. Because, like, even if they make the playoffs, what are they going to do? Get swept by the Nuggets? Maybe gentlemen swept? Lose to the Thunder in 5 or 6? Like, they're not going to seriously contend even for a second round appearance. So what are they supposed to do? The answer is pray, because there's not much else they can do. KD is probably going to play 2-3 more seasons. You know, he's 35. I doubt he wants to play until he's like 44. You know, he's not going to play as long as LeBron, probably. He's also just not as good as he once was. He's still probably a top 10 player, but he is on the closer to the 10 side of that spectrum. And next season will probably fall out of the top 10. Devin Booker is around the same range as him, you know, probably around that 10 spot, that 8 to 10 spot. And he is not good enough to win a championship on his own. Those 2 combined aren't good enough to win a championship together. And then you trade for Bradley Beal, hoping that he becomes that. Has not been that. He has missed most of the season with injury, and when he has played, he's been underwhelming. He hasn't been bad per se, but he's definitely not the Bradley Beal you were hoping for when you traded for him. Like, he is physically taken a step back, visibly, you know, like he is not the player that he was. He's averaging 18 points, 4 rebounds, 4.5 assists on good-ish efficiency. You know, it's not like he's bad at scoring or anything, but 18 points per game is significantly less than you would have hoped for. You were hoping that you were trading for probably a 25 point per game scorer. Like, you weren't expecting him to average 30 like he did in Washington a couple of times, but you were probably hoping for 22 to 25 points a game. And someone who could help ease Devin Booker's playmaking responsibilities, and he hasn't done that to a super effective level. Not like he's a bad playmaker, he's fine, but you were probably hoping for him to be a good playmaker. The rest of the squad, man, just does not move me in the slightest. Like, Grayson Allen has been good this season, Yusuf Nurkic has been pretty solid this season. Besides those two, who on this team is like really good? Royce O'Neal is decent, but he's not been as good since he got traded to the Suns. You know, like David Roddy, no. Josh Okogie, no. Eric Gordon is 35, no. Nas Little is, you know, Drew Eubanks. Who are you really worried about on this team if you're going against them in the playoffs? You're worried about KD and you're worried about Booker. As long as you can kind of slow them down, or even if you don't slow them down completely, as long as you slow them down for a few games, you'll win the series. The Nuggets proved it last season when the Suns were better, by the way, last season. Devin Booker became prime Michael Jordan for 2 games. Better than prime Michael Jordan. He was averaging like 40 points a game on 80% shooting. Those were the only 2 games that the Suns won that series, and they were close games. The rest of the series was not particularly close. When Devin Booker looked like Devin Booker and not a demigod come from ancient Greek mythology, it wasn't as good as they wanted it to be. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. People talk about the Nets being in a rough situation, and I've made a video on that. I believe that they have a worse situation than the Suns, because at least the Suns have Devin Booker. But the Suns are not in a much better position, I don't think. There's a solid chance they miss the playoffs this season. Because, I don't know about you, but if they have to face the Warriors or the Rockets in the play-in, I could see them winning that game. But I don't see them beating the Mavs or the Lakers. I don't see them beating Luka. I don't see them beating LeBron and AD, you know? And those are one win games. They're one and done. So even the Rockets or Warriors could get the best of them in a game. So I have a really hard time envisioning a way that this gets significantly better for the Suns, because they don't have their picks. They don't have anyone's picks, really. They have 2 second-round picks that are protected pretty significantly. One of which is a Boston second-round pick, which will be like the 60th pick, the 59th pick, something like that. You know, the Celtics are good. The other one is a San Antonio Spurs second-round pick that's not going to convey. The Spurs are not good this season. They're not going to be a last 10 pick in the draft. They're going to be like a top 1 pick in the draft, or top 3 pick in the draft. So they'll probably have a second-round pick around 33 and is protected until pick 49. That is not ideal. You know, we see a lot of these new owners go all in on these superstar, quote unquote superstar big threes, and I think this is the last one we'll see for a while. Matt Ishbia really just was Joe Tsai 2 Electric Boogaloo. Is not someone who made very smart dealings with the assets that they had. I think you make the KD trade, you know, like it's Kevin Durant. You don't not trade for Kevin Durant, but also you have to do a better job of surrounding Devin Booker and KD with good talent. They didn't do that. They went out and traded for an aging star who was like an all-star level player last season, maybe, and that's not who you look for in that situation. You don't look for another guard, best with the ball in his hands, decent off ball, and is visibly not the player he once was and dealt with injuries. Because I know the injuries have been worse since he's gotten to Phoenix, but they were there in Washington. He was not the player he was in his prime last season, and he's taken even a further step back this season. You don't really have any super promising young talent. You traded all of that away in the past couple of seasons. The best quote-unquote young asset that they have is maybe Bol, maybe Nas Little. You know, these are not players that teams are going to be excited to trade for. You have really hamstrung yourself and tied yourself to this team that is going to be mediocre for as long as Devin Booker and KD are there. And once Kevin Durant retires or wants to be traded, and once Steve Book maybe wants out in a couple of seasons, what do you do then? Because it's not going to be pretty. I mean, even if you get a lot of picks for D Book, the team he's going to is probably going to be good. You're not going to get your picks until the next decade. Like, I think 2032 is the next season that they have their own pick. You do have Devin Booker under contract for the next 5 years, but what are you going to do? Just be the 9 seed every year? Like, in the West, you need a competent team. You need a good team. You can't do that just one star get us to the playoffs sort of thing. You can kind of do that with people in the East, you know, like the Hawks, Bulls. You'd be better than them, but you're in the West. And considering you're in the West and Steph Curry couldn't get the Warriors potentially to the play-in this season, I doubt that Devin Booker can get the Suns very far on his own. And KD and him obviously aren't taking them to the promised land either. So the Suns are sort of cooked. Don't think they'll be good. Yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. If you liked this video, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you have any questions, by the way, I kind of want to do a mailbag video, so comment your questions below, or hot takes, or whatever. I want to do a video responding to comments and whatnot. So if you have any questions or things about basketball, not basketball, don't really care, leave them below, and maybe the next video I make will be a mailbag. We'll see.